What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the At the Horn podcast. My name is Sammy Hall, and I'm joined by Anthony and Nick today. And basically, we're going to be going over our MLB free agency predictions. We're going to go over who we think is going to sign where, how that player may impact their team and their chances of competing for a World Series in the near future. So we'll start it off with probably best free agent, Trevor Bauer, former Cy Young, or last year's Cy Young. You know, as a Mets fan, I would love to see Trevor Bauer rocking the orange and blue with new owner Steve Cohen. He has all the money in the world, so that's why I say Trevor Bauer, along with Jacob deGrom, Marcus Stroman, and David Peterson, are going to be forming one of the nastiest rotations in baseball next year. Nick, what do you think?
I think Trevor Bauer is going to be the hardest free agent to predict because he's a charismatic guy and he's hard to predict. He's very against what Rob Manfred wants in a player. He's very outgoing and stuff like that. And he seems so unpredictable. He talks about how he wants to just sign 1-year deals for the rest of his career, but then his agent comes out and says he's looking for a 4-year deal. So it's really confusing. A lot of rumors about the West Coast. I think the Angels are in play, maybe for a 1-year deal. I don't see him signing long-term with them simply because they can't prove that they're a good baseball team. But you know, they Mickey Callaway is their pitching coach. Actually, he turned Dylan Bundy around this year. I think that they can form a solid rotation by getting Bauer. I think Joe Madden still has a little bit left in the tank, but nothing what he used to be with like the Rays or his beginning years in the Cubs. And just so we can get this out of the way, I think the Mets are in contention for just about every single player that we're going to talk about because Steve Cohen is going to be willing to spend money and keep spending money. I think they're in contention. And I think it's going to be hard to predict money on these guys this year just because so many teams lost so much money this year off of tickets and concessions and whatever. Like they lost so much money. It's going to be hard to predict. Like the Phillies even said, like, we're not re-signing JT Realmuto. We don't have the money to do it. We lost $2 billion. So that's going to be tough. I think Trevor Bauer is going to sign with the Angels on a 1-year, like $28 to $30 million deal, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets swooped in and took him.
Regarding Bauer, I do like the Angels as a possible fit. I really like how he fits in that rotation. But I'm going to take a flyer here. I'm going to go Minnesota. Now, they've been lacking a lot in the past years. Now, they're a regular season team. They always seem to do well. If that stupid Bomba squad no one really cares about. But the pitching has always faltered in the playoffs, I feel like. You know, now you got a legitimate ace in Jose Barrios. They claimed they had Irvin Santana a couple of years ago. I don't know if anyone remembers that. But I think – yeah, he sucked. But if you bring in Bauer on a 1 or 2 year deal, I'm assuming it'd be a 1-year deal because it's Trevor Bauer. That rotation would be spectacular. You got Barrios, you got Bauer, you got
Kenta Maeda.
He was a Cy Young candidate. That's a triple, like I don't even know what the word is for it. That's a trio.
Even Rich Hill, for how old he is, performed pretty well this season.
Like he's a quality pitcher. Like, you got a lot of quality guys in that rotation. If you can add an arm like Bauer, that team's deadly in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the thing with Bauer is he's just such a crazy dude, and that's why I think a lot of people gravitate towards him. But you're a Cy Young winner. You just had the best season you could have ever possibly imagined. I mean, even last year, Bauer was pretty good, but like he didn't have a particularly amazing season. Obviously, he had that incident in Kansas City where he chucked the ball over the fence. I mean, it was kind of a down season for Bauer last year, but he kind of recaptured some of that magic we've seen in the past. And I just think it's interesting to see why Bauer would want a 1-year deal instead of maximizing his value and getting a long-term extension, or not even a long-term extension, just a long-term contract and shoring up his finances for the next decade or so. Yeah. Okay. So then the second guy, maybe the best just hitter in baseball, DJ Lemahieu. I have him re-signing with the Yankees. I don't see any other reason why. Like, I don't see why he would sign anywhere else. That's a great ballpark to hit in. He turned his career completely from just a really solid player to maybe one of the best players in the entire game. I don't see why he would leave. The Yankees are going to pay him what he wants. I got LeMahieu back in the pinstripes.
Anthony?
Yeah, LeMahieu back to the Yankees. There's no question about it. They're going to give him a blank check. He can have whatever he wants as a Yankees fan. I'd give him $50 million if he wanted it for real. It's the best hitter I've ever seen, ever. I mean, I missed out on Derek Jeter's prime, but DJ LeMahieu is the greatest hitter I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams have said that they're going to throw money at DJ LeMahieu, but I think it's hard to see him playing in another jersey in the upcoming season. And for the money wise, the Yankees said they want to try and get, under the threshold. They're definitely not going to, because Cashman loves to spend, and he says it all the time. He always wants to get under the threshold, but he spends money so much. And again, like I said, it's tough to predict like money on these guys just because of profit loss and everything. But since LeMahieu's 32 years old, I think he can still get a 4-year deal just as the way off that he hits, because the Yankees need a guy like DJ LeMahieu in the lineup. Too many home run hitters who don't hit for average. Not a lot of them will get on base a ton, besides like Aaron Hicks, who walks like magically somehow. I don't even get how he walks so much. But LeMahieu slaps base hits all over the place. He still gets 20 home runs on the season. He's just an overall like pure hitter. He slaps doubles in the gap. He can hit to the opposite field. He's got opposite field power. That's good for Yankee Stadium. I think he's going to sign a 4-year deal for like maybe 100. Maybe he'll hit triple digits on his deal. I mean, Josh Donaldson last year signed a 4-year, $92 million deal, I think, at the age of 34. And I think DJ LeMahieu has proved that he deserves a better deal than that. So I think like 4 years, $100 million, maybe a little north of that, is a good deal for him.
Yeah, definitely. The Mets obviously play the Yankees a couple times every year, and it seems like every time the DJ LeMahieu steps up to the plate, just pokes a single into right field, and that's where everything starts going. I just can't imagine he's completely just turned his career around. And not even turned his career around. It's not like he's bad as a Rocky, but he just converted himself into an all-star to an MVP candidate every year. The third guy, the former, or maybe it will be current Astros outfielder, but former Astros outfielder George Springer. I also said he's going to go to the Mets. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but, I think George Springer would fit in well in that Mets lineup. Just seeing what we were missing last year. We're a good offensive team. The Mets, I'm saying we are, like I'm part of the team. The Mets are a good offensive team. George Springer's obviously a good offensive player, but we're kind of lacking some defense at center field. Nimmo is more of a corner outfielder, I think. I don't know how he's going to fit in, especially with Dom Smith maybe playing some left field. It's hard to see where Nimmo fits in there. I think George Springer in center field to shore up a potential Gold Glove center fielder, it would just be huge. A potential leadoff hitter. George Springer's a guy. Maybe I wouldn't say more than Bauer, but like if they miss out on Bauer, I think Springer's got to be the number one guy the Mets have got to get this offseason, or the guy they should try and get.
Yeah, I think the Mets are in very good contention to get him. Like I said, I think they're in good contention to get just about every guy we're going to talk about. But I think Springer's going to sign with the Boston Red Sox, mainly because he's a Northeast guy, grew up in Connecticut, went to the University of Connecticut. So, I could see him definitely making a return over here. And I think Boston's going to be willing to spend the money. I think they're going to let Jackie Bradley Jr. walk. And I think this can put them back into contention to be a wild card team. You're going to get Chris Sale back. You're going to get Eduardo Rodriguez back. They're going to need to go out and sign another starting pitcher, get some bullpen help. Their pitching is going to be still not great, but I think JD Martinez hits a little bit better next year. Bogarts is obviously probably a top 5 shortstop. Devers is going to return a little bit. I think Verdugo is a great player already, and he's only going to get better. Adding George Springer to that is only going to make that team more deadly. I think he's going to sign maybe like a 5-year, like $130 million deal. The Red Sox are going to throw money at him. I think he's going to want to go there.
I got Springer going to Toronto. Now, I think the Mets could make a play for him, but I think he fits in better with Toronto. They've been lacking a center fielder since forever. They had Kevin Pillar for a couple of years. He was solid, but nothing special. I think he fits in really well there. He provides a nice bat alongside Teoscar Hernandez, Bo Bichette, and you got Vladdy. Rowdy Tellez could even rake a little bit.
Toronto's willing to spend money right now, too.
Oh, my God. Yeah, they got all those guys on their rookie ball contracts still. They're making sub $1 million.
I think Toronto might be in play for Lemahieu too. So I think Toronto even said already that they might throw a ton of money at Lemahieu, but I could definitely see them just like saying the same thing like you said about Lemahieu, just blank check to Springer because he's not re-signing with Houston. Like he's made that very clear now. I think they just say like, hey, however much money you want, however long you want it, like we'll do it.
Agreed. My only question with Lemahieu to Toronto is that the infield's very crowded right now. You got Jonathan Villar, Bo Bichette, Vladdy, Kevin Biggio.
I think Villar's a free agent, and I don't think they're going to bring him back.
You don't think so? Yeah. Oh, I didn't know he was a free agent.
But Biggio plays a great second base. and I don't know if you're so willing to move him. So maybe you play Lemahieu at first, but I can't let Vlad play third.
I'd rather
He's
play
so
DJ
bad.
third. DJ would be a good third baseman. He's a quality. I don't think he could play shortstop, but
I don't think he has the
play
arm
better than
strength to do it
Gleyber.
anymore.
Yeah, no, but he could play a nice third base.
Yeah, the Springer fit in Toronto is interesting because obviously you have a very young core with Vlad Guerrero Jr., Bichette, Kevin Biggio. It's just interesting. I don't know how old Springer is. He's probably like
31, I think.
Something like that. I don't know. It's interesting because I guess the Rays are building, or the Jays are building for the future here. I don't exactly see how their career, like the timeline, kind of fits well because you have a guy. It's hard to say. Springer's obviously very good, but like everyone's prone to aggression at some point. If you're getting your three young stars to where they want to be in a couple of years, will Springer still be that guy in a couple of years? I don't know. But if you're willing to spend the money, I wouldn't pass up on a guy like Springer if you can.
I get what you're saying, but I think a guy like Springer only makes those younger guys better. Like he proved this year that he didn't need any buzzers or any cameras. He had a really tough start to the year. I'm not gonna lie, he looked bad, but he got really hot, really fast. And I think being able to learn from, the team, obviously, if you ask me, they really didn't deserve it, but a team that won the World Series, he's a World Series winner. He's a guy that has consistently been a top hitter in the league, a great leadoff hitter. He's going to be able to show a guy like Biggio how to be a great leadoff hitter. Like Biggio already gets on base a lot. If he can add some power that he can get from Springer, it's just teaching and stuff like that, that bringing Springer into that is only going to make them a better team.
Agreed. Yeah, no, that makes sense. All right, so the fourth guy we want to talk about here is JT Realmuto, obviously the star catcher out of Philadelphia. And, another guy I would like the Mets to chase, but just to make it interesting, I said that Realmuto would go to the Nationals here, and I guess this kind of disagrees with my whole timeline alignment with the Blue Jays because Soto and Realmuto are already on different, like one's 30, one's 20, but already winning World Series, I think it's time to capitalize, and so is Prime. This is one of the best hitters in all of baseball. And you can a catcher with that arguably is maybe the best catcher in the sport too. I think it'd be a nice fit. Obviously, Suzuki and Yan Gomes not gonna get the job. I mean, they did get the job done, but you can always use an upgrade. So I said JT Realmuto signs with the Nationals this offseason.
I have JT Realmuto going to the Mets. I think they're willing to spend for once, Phillies won't re-sign him. I don't buy it. Bryce Harper's going to be pissed, but it is what it is. I don't think he'd want to sign with the Nationals team right now. I feel like while they've got the pieces in Soto, they have a lot of money tied up in Scherzer and Strasburg, who are two aging pitchers that I am not very confident. So I think he'll sign with the Mets. They got a nice young core, and yeah.
I'm going to have to agree with Anthony on this one. I had him signing with the Mets. And, part of it, obviously, Steve Cohen is willing to spend now. The Mets haven't had, a really good catcher in a while. I mean, Wilson Ramos just was not it. And I almost feel for that pitching staff. It's a decent pitching staff, and they're throwing to Wilson Ramos all the time. Like, he looks like Gary Sanchez sometimes at the plate, and that kind of goes to show that, you're not really getting the job done. And his hitting was getting worse as it's going on. And I think Realmuto, I see the Mets, being a contending team. And I think Realmuto wants to win at this point. He played on the Marlins a little bit, weren't that good of a team. He's playing on a very underperforming Phillies team that never made the playoffs while he was there. And first of all, props to the Marlins for absolutely destroying that trade. I mean, Sixto Sanchez is going to be a stud, and they got him because now the Phillies are letting him walk. The Phillies look really stupid. But besides that, I think he goes to the Mets for around like a 4-year deal, maybe a little north of $100 million.
Any of these big guys I think can sign with the Mets. Especially because I picked these other couple of guys, I decided to just say Realmuto to the Nationals. But I just want to make a point here where I think the Mets are in a unique opportunity because, Nick, you mentioned earlier about the salary cap in baseball or even just the salary with so many owners losing money. The Mets are like the only team their owner hasn't lost money because he's a new owner. He's the richest owner in the history of the game. He
They
has the
even made
opportunity to
24
spend.
million off of Robbie Cano getting suspended.
Yeah, right. Yeah, an extra 24 million in Steve's pockets. Yeah, they have the opportunity to spend. You have such a good group of players. Obviously, the pitching staff, like I said before, DeGrom, Stroman, Peterson. You have your hitters, Alonso, Conforto, Dom Smith, Jeff McNeil, 4 All-Star caliber players. JD Davis was really good a year ago. He had a tough year this year, but I still think JD's pretty good. I think if they don't get Realmuto, I'd like them to sign James McCann. We're not going to talk about McCann here, but I would like to see McCann get picked up. I think he's another solid catcher. And if you can get McCann and maybe spend money elsewhere on like a Bauer or a Springer, I think maybe that'll be best suited for the Mets. But I'm not going to complain if they sign Realmuto, obviously. Any of these guys, if they can land them, they're just going to put them closer to contention because I think they're already there. They just not already there, but they're close, and they need a couple pieces. And I think any of these big guys will clearly make a huge difference. All right, so the 5th guy here, and maybe the biggest surprise of the past season, not surprise, but he had an amazing season. Marcell Ozuna, the former Marlin, Cardinal, Brave. I said he was going to re-sign with the Braves. That's my prediction. I think there's a lot of teams Marcell Ozuna can sign with. I think it's amazing what he did, taking a chance on himself, signing a 1-year deal, and arguably could have been the MVP of the National League. I know his teammate Freeman is obviously amazing too, but he was unbelievable this year. I think Marcell Ozuna re-ups with the Braves here, but there's clearly a lot of teams he can go with, so I'm interested to see what you guys think.
Yeah, I think the universal DH is going to play a very big role on where Marcell Ozuna is going to sign. If the universal DH is implemented, I think the possibilities are endless. I think he wants to stay in Atlanta, but I mean, it's just so hard to try and defend who he is as a left fielder. He has to be on paper one of the worst outfielders to ever see an outfield. It's almost embarrassing. And I think if the universal DH is not in place, I think a team that's willing to spend is the White Sox. I think he can be a DH for them. I don't think they're going to sign Encarnacion again. There's no need to. So you're going to have Abreu. I think Madrigal is going to be the full-time second baseman. Tim Anderson, Yohan Moncada, Eloy Jimenez, Luis Robert, and right field, not sure who it is, maybe Nomar Mazara. I know he was on the team. But Adam Engel, I know he mixes in. They have Yasmani Grandal. But I think him being a DH for them would be huge. And I know they already have a great offense, but adding to that offense would be absolutely crazy. But if the universal DH is played in the National League, I think that he's going to re-sign with the Braves for probably a 4-year, $80+ million deal.
I'm going to go a bold take here. I say Marcell Ozuna signs with the Miami Marlins. He returns to Florida.
That's not a bold take. I like that.
That's reasonable.
No, yeah. It's not expected, I wouldn't say. I think that's a better term.
Yeah.
I could see Marcell going back to Miami, though. He was always talking about how much he loved it down there, even when they were terrible. And now that this team's got a solid roster behind them, a lot of guys showed up finally. And they seem to have a budding ace in Sixto Sanchez. I could see Marcell Ozuna coming back as a veteran role, like Starling Marte. I think I could see him playing time in left field. I could see him at DH if the rule gets imposed. But I think it'd be a really good pickup for Miami to bring in Marcell Ozuna.
Yeah, especially if he goes back to Miami, he's obviously going to be the guy playing behind, or not even in the shadow, but playing with Stanton and Yelich. And that's just a loaded outfield. And he didn't necessarily get the recognition he deserved until maybe even this year. And if you're right, Anthony, if he goes back to Miami, that would just be huge for the franchise and just another step back towards contention. I like that, Anthony. That was good. The 6th guy, Marcus Semien, the former Oakland Athletic infielder. I said he was going to sign with the Phillies. I think it depends. If they don't re-sign Didi Gregorius, then I could see maybe Semien going somewhere else. But I just said for the sake of this that he would sign with the Phillies. He could be a nice cog in the middle of that lineup with Segura, Bryce Harper, all their guys. The Phillies are not bad. I think Semien's just a really solid player. He does everything he can hit in field, and I just think Semien's going to be a good fit in Philadelphia if he goes there.
I got Semien staying with Oakland. I don't really see a point of leaving. They don't really have any infield prospects coming up anytime soon, so I feel like they'll be inclined to give him the money. And he's worth it. I mean, he may have had like a slightly down season. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't his usual self. But I think he could still be a very valuable player in Oakland. I think they re-signed him to like a 2-3 deal.
Yeah, so a few things. I think him re-signing makes sense. I think in the Oakland Athletics terms, it doesn't, because they're very cheap. And I still think, even though Semien had a down year this year, I think he's still going to cost a little bit. And, this isn't going to make sense at first, but I think Marcus Semien is going to sign with the Cleveland Indians. A little bit of a bold one, but I'm going all in on Francisco Lindor getting traded. I think it's absolutely going to happen. I think the Indians, they don't want to pay him. And I think that they still want to be able to replace that kind of offense, because they can still compete as a team. They've got some great pitchers. I don't know what they're doing in their farm system with their pitchers, but they're doing it right. They're getting guys to step up. I mean, over the past few years, Corey Kluber, Trevor Bauer, Mike Clevenger, Zach Plesac had a great this year. Shane Bieber was the AL Cy Young. Like, they just have guys coming up from their farm system and performing and dominating as pitchers, and it's insane. And I think that they're still going to want to be able to compete a little bit. So by trading Lindor, who I know we're not talking about Lindor, but I think a candidate to trade for him is the St. Louis Cardinals. And I know they have Paul DeJong. Paul DeJong is nowhere near Francisco Lindor. So I think, the Cardinals, maybe they hold on to DeJong. He could probably play a little bit of third base. Matt Carpenter is not a good baseball player anymore. So you hold on to DeJong. You're going to have to give up a few prospects, maybe O'Neill. You might even have to give up Edman, which would suck a little bit. But I think it makes sense for the Indians to try and replace what Francisco Lindor had. And Semien's obviously not the same player, but it'll be enough to keep them as a competitive team.
Yeah, that's interesting, Nick, because I'm going to skip ahead here. I know we had an order, but so I put Didi Gregorius going to the Cardinals. I just think I was just trying to shuffle things around here. I know they have DeJong, and they could use maybe an upgrade at shortstop. I said Didi to the Cardinals, maybe to take another new chapter in his career. What do you guys think about Didi, your former shortstop in New York?
I've got him having a bounce back year in Texas. Now, Texas is out at the moment, but he's looking to sit the bench this year. I've heard that from multiple sources, and their plan right now is to start Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. I don't like him at shortstop. He's a former catcher. I think they can play him at third. Yeah, that's the plan right now. Elvis Andrus is gone. God. Yeah, so I think a really beneficial move for them is to start Didi Gregorius. I think he could be a really nice one-year deal for them. He could smack 20 home runs, hit 280 on any given day or any given season. And I think so. I've seen the Phillies. They got this guy, Bryson Stott. I'm buying into this guy all in. I think the Phillies really like him. I really like him. I think he could be a really good shortstop in the league. And last resort, they could stick Gene Segura or Scott Kingery over there. I just don't think Didi Gregorius is really needed. But I think he can get a 1 or 2 year deal in Texas and show out there, maybe get another contract before he retires.
I like that. I'm going to go a different route. I didn't even consider the Texas Rangers. I do like that, though. I didn't know that he was considering sitting the bench. He doesn't seem like the type of guy that wants to do that. But I have him signing with the Cincinnati Reds. And I think it's because the Reds proved this year that they're going to be a competitive team. I think they're most likely going to lose Bauer, which is going to hurt a lot. But Luis Castillo is still an ace, and Sonny Gray, somehow, some way, after flopping in New York, is pitching like an absolute dude in Cincinnati. They got a good rotation. They got some good starting pitchers coming up in their minor league system right now, too. Bullpen's solid, probably could use a little bit of work. Eugenio Suarez is going to bounce back. I mean, Votto's he's not what he used to be anymore, obviously. But, you still got solid guys. I think Nick Senzel is a very solid outfielder. I think Castellanos is going to bounce back. He started off hot. He ended up getting super duper cold. I also don't think Winker is going to produce like he did. So that's why I think you need a consistent bat like Didi Gregorius, because a lot of those guys, like Winker, is home run or bust. He had a breakout year this year. I don't see him doing that again. He just doesn't strike me as that kind of hitter. Nick Castellanos, I think he's going to bounce back. He's a very talented hitter. He's just one of the worst fielders like I've ever seen in my life. So I think you need a guy who's going to hit around, like Anthony said, like he can just come to the lineup, hit 20-plus home runs, and hit 280 for you and play a solid shortstop, which is, I think it's what they need. They're going to lose out on Bauer, but I think this is a good addition for them.
Yeah, that would be interesting, the whole Cincinnati situation, especially if they lose Bauer. Another guy I want to talk about, another former Yankee, or he could be a current Yankee in a couple of days, Masahiro Tanaka. I know, Nick, you mentioned Bauer potentially to the Angels, and I was thinking the same thing. They could use another starter. I like Mickey Callaway. I know a lot of Mets fans didn't like him. I think Mickey kind of got a bad rap. He made some questionable decisions as the Mets manager. I think
good pitching coach, bad manager.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I liked Mickey more than a lot of people for whatever reason. I think Tanaka could go to the Angels. Like they said, they could use an arm. They have the bats with Trout, Rendon, all those guys. But the Angels can never seem to get – they have the hitters, like I just said. They can't get to that next tier. And I think bringing in a guy like Tanaka who has the playoff experience, he's very solid. You know what you're going to get from Tanaka. He's just a good pitcher, and I think that would be a nice fit in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I don't think Tanaka is exactly who he used to be. He's obviously lost a little bit of his stuff. But I still think teams are going to be willing to throw 2, maybe 3-year $1 million deals at him, or 2 or 3 year deals. And I see him taking, a little bit of a hometown discount and re-signing with the Yankees. He said it according to his translator. I mean, he seems like a guy that I would just love if he speaks English. He just seems like a fun guy. Like I wish I could just see his enthusiasm in English. He just seems like a great guy. But anyways, it seems like he wants to play for the Yankees. He's been there his whole career, obviously besides his time overseas, but he seemed to express interest in wanting to stay with the Yankees. I think he'll take a little bit of hometown discount. I think some teams, like you said, the Angels might throw a little bit more money to try and get him there, but I think the Yankees will end up taking him in.
Yeah, I'm going to second that. I think the Yankees re-sign Tanaka if they're smart. If they can get him in on a not a 1 year deal, definitely a 2 or 3 year deal for Tanaka. I mean, they got Sevy coming back this year, not until like May or June, but they can survive without him for a couple months. So that makes it Garrett Cole, Masahiro Tanaka, Luis Severino, Didi Garcia, and then maybe you can call it Clark Schmidt because I do not want James Paxton back.
Don't forget about Domingo Germán.
Domingo Germán is also coming back too. Yeah, I knew I was forgetting someone. So you could possibly use one of those guys out of the bullpen to start. You could use Clark Schmidt at the big league level, or you could leave him down there. But I think Davies a legitimate pitcher. I think Domingo Germán is a legitimate pitcher. And then the rest of those guys are seasoned veterans that always get the job done. I think you have to let Paxton walk up to the Yankees. He will succeed somewhere else. I know that for a fact, but I just don't think the Bronx is a place for him anymore. I just feel like the injury concerns are not worth it. He's a great pitcher. Don't get me wrong. When he's been healthy, he's been solid. Not this year. I'm not saying this year. But in previous years, he's been pretty good down the stretch of the Yankees. I'm not buying the injury concerns. He's not worth a multi-year deal.
Okay, so the second to last guy, I know I'm kind of jumping around here, guys, so sorry. The second to last guy is Jackie Bradley Jr., the former Red Sox center fielder, stellar defensively. It's kind of just a random signing I have here. I just said he's going to sign with the Royals. No particular reason. I feel like this is just a small move the Royals could make just to improve. I mean, they're obviously not going to be contending. And if you want to win a couple more games, maybe Jackie Bradley can help you, teaming up with Whit Merrifield. Just a smaller move. I don't really have a reason for Jackie Bradley signing with the Royals other than I just wanted to put it down. So who do you guys got JBJ signing with?
Well, I think that would make sense for him to sign with the Royals just because they'll be the team that will just throw money at him because they're so bad right now and they want to be a little bit more competitive. So I think that they will give him more money than is expected. And I'm not exactly sold on Jackie Bradley Jr. just because this is his first good offensive year besides that other year where he had a 27-game hit streak, whatever, and everyone thought he was the next Mike Trout, and he's clearly not. But he had a pretty solid offensive year this year. He was actually hitting the other way just as much as he was pulling the ball, which was very surprising because he was just a dead pull hitter in the beginning of his career. He had a solid season. He's still an elite defender. I want to say that it's almost like they swapped Springer because I have Springer going to the Red Sox. And I always think it's like a little swap that he goes to the Astros because they're going to have Yordan Alvarez back, but he's going to be a DH. So I think Kyle Tucker's going to stay in left field. You're going to need someone to probably man that center field a little bit because Josh Reddick, I mean, is he even going to still play right field at that point? He can barely play the outfield at this point. He's really not a good baseball player anymore. So, but A team that I have that is probably no one is thinking about would probably be the San Francisco Giants, because for some reason they think that they can win every year, even though I just feel like with that roster they can't. But they're always somehow in contention for a wild card, and they just seem like the team that would just throw unnecessary money at Jackie Bradley Jr. I'm not sold on Jackie Bradley. That's why I'm kind of talking down on him a little bit. I think he's a little overrated just because of this very small sample size we have on him. Not even a full season, because his other full seasons, he has been absolutely horrendous at the plate, but still an elite defender. He showed some flashes of being a solid hitter. If he can stay consistent like that, I think San Francisco would get a good signing out of him.
I have a domino effect coming here. So I got Jackie Bradley Jr. signing with the Astros, but this is only resulting from Michael Brantley signing with the New York Mets this offseason. I think he gets a 3-year deal from the Mets. I think he's a great offensive piece they can add to that. He's a good fielder. I think he's very enticing. I'd want him more than Springer. I'm going to go out on a limb there and say he's a better hitter. He's less of a fielder, but he is a better hitter than George Springer. Truly believe that. Look at the stats.
Maybe pure hitter, as in like base hit wise.
Oh yeah,
I think by slugging and power and on base, I don't know how you wouldn't take, like, if I had 10 opportunities to sign Springer or Michael Brantley, I would sign Springer 10 out of 10 times.
Well, the things you got to take into consideration, the Mets have a lot of power guys. They have a lot of guys that can get on base very easily. They need that DJ Lemahieu that the Yankees have. They need that Michael Brantley. I know Jeff McNeil's there, but Michael, imagine having two Jeff McNeils essentially. I mean, McNeil's probably a more sound hitter, and he's more cost effective. Springer, you're going to have to blow $20 million on him. You can get Brantley for nearly half that cost.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because the Mets have been talking about getting two of the big free agents that are out right now. So I think if you do, let's say the Steve Cohen, this is a crazy scenario. Steve Cohen goes crazy, signs Trevor Bauer, signs JT Realmuto, and on a cheap deal gets Michael Brantley. Michael Brantley is obviously, he's not going to be so expensive. I see that making sense. Michael Brantley just slips in the left field. He's not going to play a great defense, but he's going to be a guy like Anthony said, where they don't need him to hit the ball over the fence every time. They literally just need him to put it in play, just slap a base hit the other way, and then the Mets will be rolling. They need a guy like him.
That's fair. I think with the Mets, it's hard because the Mets are not – they need a center fielder, I think. I think they're pretty sound in the corner outfield. Maybe not defensively, but if you sign a guy like Brantley, you're going to have a lot of crowded positions in the corner outfield. I mean, Conforto's going to play right field every day, but in left you could have anywhere of Dom, JD Davis, that is.
Dom Smith might be worse than Marcell Ozuna in left field.
Yeah, that's fine, but you're gonna have if you play him at first base, you move Alonso to maybe the DH, or you just make Dom the DH. You still have a place to play someone like Nimmo. I just don't. Nimmo's not a great center fielder defensively. I think Nimmo's a high on base guy that you can put at the top of your lineup, or even at the bottom of your lineup, wherever you put him. Nimmo's going to get on base. I think it'd just be more effective if you got a guy like Springer. Especially because Steve Cohen's here. I feel like it's more worth it for the Mets to get a guy like Springer, maybe pay extra money for a better fit. You can argue Michael Brantley's better hitter than Springer. That's fine. I'm not going to argue with that. I just think fit-wise, it makes more sense to get Springer for that.
I get what you're saying, but like defensive-wise, like Springer doesn't play like a stellar center field. And honestly, like he's probably more of a right fielder. And he's probably like over these years, like he's already 31. Like I think in like 2, 3, 4 years, he's going to have to make the shift to right field. Like he's just, he's still like a quick guy right now, but I just like he does. Yeah. I mean, I don't think like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he really plays like the greatest center field. And I think he's going to end up being more of a right fielder as his career progresses. So I think I get for the short term, it makes sense for him to play center field. I think a guy like Conforto, who is not a very good defender, is going to have to, learn the ways of center field if they sign Springer.
That's fair. I think Conforto's a bit of an underrated. That's just me being.
He's solid out there. I think he's solid.
Pretty solid.
I don't think he can play a good center field though. That's the only like he has in the past. But I don't think he's the answer to your center field.
Yeah,
I think
Conforto's the perfect right fielder for the Mets, and I just think, like you said, Nick, this is a short-term move. The Mets are in a unique position to spend this money. Why not go for it? You got DeGrom at the apex of his career. You got to make the most of his prime. I'm not really focusing. I guess it's not a smart management move not to think about the future. But if you have the opportunity to spend to get DeGrom a World Series or ride DeGrom to a World Series, I think it's a good chance. And we can worry about George Springer's position in the future. That's just how I feel, but I don't know. So, okay, the last guy I want to talk about is the Oakland Athletic reliever, Liam Hendriks. Back-to-back terrific seasons. Hendriks is extremely, just in terms of the national media, it's just extremely underrated, I feel like. He's not talked about as much. Everybody knows how good he is. I said he was going to sign with the Padres. And reason being, is Kirby Yates a free agent? I don't even know if Kirby Yates is a free agent, but I think the Padres.
Yeah, I think he is, but they're probably going to be able to sign him on a cheap deal because he didn't play the season.
Right. Well, either way, they could just use another guy like Liam Hendriks. They're another team that's going to be contending for a while with Tatis. You have a lot of money already committed to veteran players. I think you should go all in, especially with one of the best players in the game in Tatis. Get a guy like Hendriks to shut down the ninth on a daily basis. I think that'd be a really good pickup for San Diego.
I've got Hendriks going to the Yankees, and this is wishful thinking. He's a great reliever, but they have the money to spend this offseason. They do. I know a lot of people are saying they don't, but they're the New York Yankees. They got all the money in the world. I would love Hendriks in the back of the bullpen setting. You could set up with Green as a middle reliever. You got Chapman and Britton, and then he slides him perfectly to fill Tommy Kahnle's missing role. The money is a concern because I don't know how much he's expecting to get, considering Britton got 3 years, 27. Maybe that was Ottavino that got that.
I think it's 27.
Yeah, 27 mil. I'd be open to signing him to that. I would say the team he would fit perfectly with, in my opinion, but it'll never happen in a million years, is the Tampa Bay Rays, because he was notorious for being an opener for the Athletics when the Rays had first introduced it until the 2018 wildcard game when he got crapped on by Aaron Judge and the Yankees. Just terrible outing for him. And yeah, that happened. But I think he would fit in perfectly with the Tampa Bay Rays. It won't happen, though. They're very money. I don't know. They're all about that with their money.
Cost
but
effective.
I would love to see the Yankees get him. Yeah, I'd love to see the Yankees get him.
I think the Yankees makes a little bit of sense. I don't know if it makes a ton of sense. I think good fit for the Rays, don't get me wrong, but I think the best fit has to be the Phillies. The worst bullpen ERA this season, north of 7 on their ERA. Like, that is, like, embarrassing. I would hate to be a pitcher in that bullpen and be a part of one of the worst statistically terrible bullpens ever. Like, that's embarrassing. Now, on the other hand, Liam Hendriks is going to get paid big-time money because, rightfully so, he's been the best reliever in the league, in my opinion, past 2 years. And I don't think the Phillies are willing to pay that because, like they said at the beginning of the year, they're not even going to sign Realmuto. I don't think they're going to re-sign Gregorius. It frees up a little bit of money, but Didi was on a 1-year deal, so you really don't lose any money by him signing somewhere else. You don't really gain any money. Realmuto, that just makes them look stupid because they gave up Sixto Sanchez and other prospects for it. And I don't think so because they lost so much money that they're not going to be able to sign him. And a surprise, I think the Blue Jays, they're so willing to spend money. They've made it apparent that they want to spend. They overperformed this year. They actually did pretty well. Biggio played pretty solid, got on base a lot. Bichette played fantastic. Vlad was pretty disappointing, I'm not going to lie. Teoscar Hernandez, never would have saw it coming in my entire life. I literally probably didn't even know who he was at the beginning of the season. If I didn't play MLB The Show, I'd probably have no clue who he was at all. But he played fantastic. You've got a solid core of young guys. And the bullpen, Ken Giles is going to come back from injury. And don't get me wrong, Ken Giles is good, but it's not great to have a guy who punches himself in the face after he gives up home runs to be your closer. And Liam Hendriks has proven time and time again that he is a guy that can come in and just about every single time shut the door, no matter what team it is. And I think there's no shot that he re-signs with the Athletics. They didn't even offer him the qualifying offer, which was unbelievable. Like, why wouldn't you at least offer it if you know he's going to decline it so you get draft compensation back or money back? Like, it didn't make any sense to me, really. And let's say he does accept it and takes a bet on himself. Like, you got Liam Hendriks back for another year. Like, I don't think there's nothing wrong with offering the qualifying offer to him. They didn't even offer it to Semien either. So I was really confused about that. But I think if the Phillies are willing to spend money on one guy, it's this guy. And if not, I think the Blue Jays swoop in and take him.
Yeah, the A's are a confusing team. Obviously, they're so money conscious. At a certain point, it's like, are we just going to keep losing our best guys and just keep cycling new ones? Like, after a while, that plan's just got to get old. I know that
you can only find so many guys who get on base a lot.
Right. And so many guys who are the best reliever in baseball. So, I don't get the A's. But either way, guys, this is a great podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Whoever made it this long, you're a real one. So thank you. We'll be back in the future with some more NFL reactions, maybe some NBA predictions with the season coming up in a couple weeks. And we'll just keep moving forward. So thank you guys. We'll catch you next time and take it easy.